Take two. So I made this video and then it just decided to die. Every now and then you will get a file that decides I'd rather die than be on the internet, and it just corrupts. And you never find out why. It won't tell you because that's what technology does. So I want to talk about the Blues, and we're in this awkward spot in between what should be the start of the season in the middle of January and the announcement of that leading to me doing official previews. These are not official season previews. The official season previews I want to do completely different. I want to do them different than other seasons, and so we have more to talk about, and there's maybe some more depth to it, or at least something different, right? Because we've looked at these teams roundabout ways over the last 6 months, it feels like 10 months. And in the case of the Blues, there's a lot to look at. 2019, they win the Stanley Cup, right? Jordan Binnington, arguably Conn Smythe worthy. It goes to Ryan O'Reilly, and I can't find any fault in that. Ryan O'Reilly, excellent season for him as well. So that postseason was magic. And if you're a St. Louis fan, of course, going to 2020, you don't care if they win the Cup in 2020. And I said that. I said Blues fans don't care if they win the Cup in 2020. And they didn't. Until you get to the playoffs, they lost to the Canucks. And then it seemed like some Blues fans started to care. And this season, I think there's going to be more caring from Blues fans because you don't want to be a one and done. You don't want to be a team known for, they won a Stanley Cup, couldn't get back. 1989, the Calgary Flames. They won a Stanley Cup, didn't get back. More recently, the 2011 Boston Bruins won a Stanley Cup, didn't get back. And so that can be frustrating. It can be frustrating if you're a fan of a team and they win a Stanley Cup and then they just never get... When I mean never get back, I mean they didn't win another one after that, right? The 2018 Caps. Going into 2019, Ovechkin's goal was back-to-back not suck, is the way he put it. And now, you're a couple years out from that, and now he's in that position too where he doesn't want to be just a single Stanley Cup winner. He wants a second. And for the Blues, I think for these guys, for this core, they want a second. Now, they got knocked out by Vancouver, or more importantly, they got out-goaltended by Vancouver. That was a series that St. Louis controlled a lot of. And it was a debate that I had throughout that series with fans who disagreed with me and said, nope, the Canucks were doing a rope-a-dope, and they were letting him shoot from all over the ice, but it's fine. And then when they got their shots, they went in the net. Right, they were out-goaltended. So that's a problem for the Blues because in 2019, of course, Binnington was a huge part of why they won the Cup. He didn't lose back-to-back games. He didn't get nervous, famously, right? So Binnington bouncing back is really important. Now, we'll start with their forward group. You've got Sanford, O'Reilly, Perron, Schwartz, Schenn, and I think Robert Thomas is ready for top 6 minutes. But you'll notice who I don't have there, and over here in red is Tarasenko. We don't know what kind of shape Tarasenko's going to be in. So, he only plays 10 games last season, and then he goes out with a shoulder injury. And he rehabs the shoulder, tries to come back during the series against Vancouver, and everybody immediately criticizing, like, he's not shooting the puck enough. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with Tarasenko? It turns out his shoulder's still buggered. So, he ends up having to have shoulder surgery. That's the third shoulder surgery. So, Tarasenko's health and his ability to shoot the puck, both in question right now, right? And when you're dealing with that kind of a shoulder problem, you just don't know. I think of Naslund in Vancouver. He had a wrist problem, and it just felt like his shot was never quite the same again. So for Tarasenko, maybe instead of being a 40-goal guy, maybe now he's a 20 or 25-goal guy, which is still useful, but at $7.5 million, you do wonder if St. Louis would be looking at getting rid of that contract at some point. And with Thomas ready for a top 6 role, they kind of have that luxury that they have extra forwards. Third line, I've got Blais, Bozak, and Sundqvist, and then Clifford, Barbashev, Kyrou on the fourth line. And Steen is sitting outside this lineup as well. Steen, during the offseason, there were a lot of rumors about them trying to get rid of his contract. Then we end up with the flat cap. We end up with the league being shut down. And it becomes a lot more difficult to move a guy when the cap didn't move up. Right? The cap was supposed to go up to 83.5 or 84 million. It didn't happen. So they're stuck with Steen's contract, and they don't have any salary cap either. They have no space. So look for Steen to probably get sent down. And then who knows if Eric Foley plays? He's still listed as being on the LTIR. Probably never comes back, but I thought I'd throw him on the board. Della Rose, of course, useful. Plays various positions for them. And so I would look for him to fill in here and there for nights when Clifford's off. But the interesting thing, too, is Kyrou really best suited on the fourth line? Probably not. Kyrou is a dynamic forward, probably best suited to third line or higher. But is Sundqvist a fourth liner, or should he be on the third line? And these are questions that Craig Berube has to answer. Now, with these four lines, they're going to score their share of goals. This is going to be a dynamic team. And much like 2019 when they won the Stanley Cup, you have got four lines. You've got four legit lines of players, and there's no passengers on this roster. And of course, you've also got Toropchenko, who's currently listed as on loan from them, right? Does he end up getting any games? You have McEachern. I like Mackenzie McEachern. I think he's a good depth guy, good fill-in. McKenzie, veteran player, and Costin. And if Klim Kostin were to come into camp and look good, there's a lot of forwards. There's a lot of forwards. And there's a lot of skilled forwards for St. Louis as well. This group is pretty darn good, and as they showed against Vancouver, they're talented and they're able to control a game. The Shen and O'Reilly lines are both capable of controlling the game. So you get to the blue line, and here's where things have really changed. Of course, Bouwmeester, with his heart condition, his career, I don't think he's retired at all, but his career's essentially done. Even before pandemic, the idea of him playing again just didn't quite feel right. So I don't see it happening. And then they lose Pietrangelo, of course, in the offseason. Now you add Torrey Krug. And the fascinating thing to me with their blue line is you've added Torrey Krug, and you probably pair him with Parayko. So Torrey Krug, who is a dynamic, fast, smaller player by defenseman standards, which does change things for St. Louis. It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic changes by getting a smaller defenseman in there. But Krug is great on the power play. 5-on-5, he will give you gray hairs at times. But you pair him up with Parayko, they're probably their most sound defensive defenseman, and probably their best all-around defenseman at this stage. That could be perfect for Krug, and that could be a great guy for Parayko. Parayko could put up assists just passing it to Krug. And then Krug bombs it from the point. So Parayko, who is not a slouch himself offensively, I've talked about Parayko ways, where he gets his breakaway himself. But Parayko, I like Parayko a lot. This could be a very interesting tandem if that's where they go with it. Now, Dunn or Scandella ends up with that top four spot. Scandella's being paid as a top four. I'm not sure they can keep Dunn out of the top four spot. And, of course, they still have to sign him. Falk. Well, this is why you sign Falk. There's been a lot of talk about Doug Armstrong and how, well, he signs Falk and then he can't afford to keep Pietrangelo. I don't know that made the huge difference. Falk was brought in from Carolina just in case they lost Pietrangelo. And if you don't guard against potentially losing Pietrangelo, you risk losing him for nothing and not having anybody to replace him with. So Falk is able to play offensively. We'll see how it goes for him this year. But it does mean that they have a solid, I think it's a solid top four. Has it been downgraded with the loss of Bouwmeester and Pietrangelo? Yes. By a lot? Probably not by that much. But it is not the same defense group that won that 2019 Cup. Absolutely. And then you've got, as I said, Scandella or Dunn would be on that third pairing. Bortuzzo, he's not going to play every game. Gunnarsson's going to factor in. Santini, who they picked up, is going to factor in. Mikkola, of course, who was impressive in the games that he played, he's going to factor in. And then there's Perunovic. So St. Louis fans who may be expecting Perunovic to jump into a top four spot, that's where things get kind of tough if you're Craig Berube or Doug Armstrong. I don't know how Armstrong's going to feel if the number 7 defenseman is Scandella, who he's paying a pretty good penny to. And, Perunovic may very well jump into a spot. To me, it feels more like he ends up in the AHL, though. Although, news today, December 4th, is that taxi squads are likely going to be the same as they were during the play-in and playoffs, where there was expanded taxi squads for COVID reasons, right? You want to make sure you don't end up with a team missing 7 or 8 guys and not having guys to replace them with. You'll have to carry 3 goaltenders, all this other wonderful stuff. So how does that affect the AHL? And what about the fact that there's a lot of ECHL teams that aren't playing? And the supply chain for players is going to be very interesting to watch this season. Really, really fascinating throughout. So we'll see if Perunovic factors in, or if he ends up on that taxi squad, or if they end up sending him to the AHL so he's playing and not on the taxi squad, or is he better off being on the taxi squad, being around the team? Questions for the Blues to answer. And then the goaltending question. Binnington, as great as he was in 2019, he was not a world beater in 2020. He was good. He was a good goaltender. And they definitely kept the right goaltender between he and Jake Allen. Jake Allen, who they would have likely lost to Seattle in expansion anyways. But now with Allen gone, Binnington likely plays more. Over a squashed schedule that we're going to probably be looking at this year, 56 games over a shortened period. Now they're going to be all back-to-backs. If it is all back-to-backs, which has been the rumor, you're going to play your backup more. If you're going to play your backup more, that means Husso or Fitzpatrick. Very likely Husso. Husso's done his time in the minors, has earned his chance, but if Husso struggles, does Binnington end up getting too many starts? And did Binnington peak? Did Binnington peak in 2019? Before the 2018-2019 season, heck, 2 minutes into the 2018-2019 season, not much was thought of Binnington. They were passing him through waivers, and nobody took him. So the question mark to me really is, so is Binnington as good as he was in 2018-2019? Or is he just going to be an average goaltender? A good goaltender, but average goaltender. And does St. Louis need better than average if they're going to end up winning themselves another Stanley Cup? Because as casual as Blues fans may have been this past season about, well, we didn't win a cup, that's fine. You could see with a lot of Blues fans that I interacted with here on Twitter and just in general, they didn't like losing to Vancouver. They didn't like that feeling. They didn't like losing to a team that they felt they were better than. And there's going to be a lot of, I'm not going to say pressure, but there's going to be an expectation that St. Louis maybe puts that puck away a little bit more, and that St. Louis proves that they're not just a one-and-done team. And that's where things get a little dicey when you look back to 89. You looked at the Flames. They would get back to a cup 15 years later, but of course they didn't win that. And then you get to Boston, who've been back to the cup final twice since 2011. They haven't won it again. Being a team that's one and done, it's nice to get that cup win, but you don't get that same reverence that the Kings did by winning in 2012 and 2014. Nowhere near what Chicago gets for 2010, 2013, and 2015. So the Blues are going to want to prove that it wasn't just a one and done, and this is the year to do it. But do they have the team to do it? So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.